So here at ASME conference here in Warwick. So what makes it so, why do you go to conferences and congresses?
So in general, why I go to conferences is, I guess it's three things. One is to hear about what's the latest in the field. And that doesn't really matter whether it's clinical or health professions education. The second is because I have questions and I think I can meet people who can maybe help me a little bit to get answers to some of my questions, whether it's for research or practice. And the third and probably the biggest reason is it's for community. I mean, it's really a question of networking, meeting people, mentoring people, being mentored, and I love it.
So you've been podcasting for quite a while. So why do you podcast?
But to be honest, I didn't know much about podcasting when we started, and I was persuaded to start rather reluctantly by John and Jason, who said, we really must do this. We have to get the way we think and what we think about the literature out to the world, and this is the way to do it. I've since become a real fan of podcasting as a form of social media that actually allows a very concise summary of something, whatever it is.
So, do you listen to podcasts yourself?
Occasionally.
Yeah. So what do you appreciate?
The fact that I can do it in a limited period of time, that I can do it when I'm on, an exercise bike or going to work or walking around or something like that. So it's convenient.
Accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Why do you choose which paper?
So I guess I could go back to why I go to conferences. Something new, I have a question, or it's something that I feel is important for the community, as the three things. And I like a paper particularly that will introduce me and perhaps our listening audience to a new method or to a new approach. And that is something we should be thinking about in health professions education so we don't remain static.
We put out podcasts all the time, and it kind of it could end there. But if you would about to continue that conversation, how would you like that? What would you like to hear?
So I guess, as a clinician, part of the clinician educator, I'm very much applied in my approach. So I'd like to know that people, number one, get something out of it, that they learn something, but more importantly, that it's something that they're able to use. So I'd say, okay, so what did you learn and how did you use it? Did you take this forward? It might just be, I learned about a new methodology that I'm going to try. Or it might be, this is a really cool approach to education or assessment. And I'm going to try it in my context.
So how would you like to take the podcast further on? Is it something that you are a little bit curious about or would you like to?
So in terms of taking it further on, I'd like to know a little bit more about our audience because I think we can make it a little bit more bespoke for the audience. We're thinking right now of clinician educators, clinicians who are involved in education in depth. I'd love to see how useful this is for clinician teachers, for leaders in education, for our administrators, for the payers. And so that's something I think to be useful for the podcast itself. In terms of what else we could do, I think our consults are very popular and they can be expanded. It doesn't only have to be methods. I think it could be anything. How do I teach in a busy clinical setting, for instance, using the evidence for that?
So what have you learned doing these podcasts?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm a little bit less afraid of podcasts and social media. I used to think we had to be scripted, and now I realize that it's much better if we're not, if we just are ourselves and are spontaneous. I mean, we four are good friends, and we kind of know how we think, and the audience may not realize it, but we see each other online when we're recording, so we can kind of gesture to each other. I want to talk next. I have something to say about that. You're wrong. Forget about it. That sort of thing. And I've learned how to how to record in a spontaneous and yet organized way.